Welcome to Right Now Workshop Podcast, where you can write a book and change the world. I'm your host, Kitty Bucholtz, and this is episode 258, In Training, an encouraging words episode coming to you on Sunday, August 1st, 2021. Welcome to our first Encouraging Words episode of season 3, the second episode of the season. It is wonderful to give you these Encouraging Words episodes. They are my favorite ones to do, even though I also adore interviewing all the guests on the show. So hopefully you like these as much as I do. I know that I get a lot of feedback that you love the Encouraging Words episodes. So I'm very happy to keep them going. No matter what we do with the rest of the podcast, we're going to keep on with the encouraging words. And today, the bit of encouragement that I wanted to bring you has to do with the phrase in training. So you may know that I'm a runner. Not an Olympic type runner. I haven't been running my whole life. I didn't run in high school. If you had talked to me when I was 35 about doing some sort of running race, I would have just laughed and sat back on the couch with my bag of chips and my Netflix and just thought you were joking. But a couple of years later, I was thinking I want to do something extreme before I turn 40. Not so extreme that I have to jump out of an airplane or something, but something that just seems ridiculous to me. And so one of my friends was talking about he wanted to run a marathon. And I thought, that sounds ridiculous. I could run a half marathon. I mean, that's ridiculous, but I could do this one amazing, ridiculous thing before I turned 40, just as a way of, keeping my life interesting and exciting. And then it turned out, okay, on the first day, I wanted to quit. That is the truth. Probably during the whole first week, I was like, why did I get my husband to do this with me? Because now I can't quit. So I didn't quit. And what I found was I really kind of liked it. Now, keep in mind, I finish near the last of the pack, the bottom of the pack when I'm in a race. I can think of several races where of the people who finished, because the fact is I've finished every race and some people don't. So I was ahead of a few people. But of the people who finish, I know one half marathon in Sydney, Australia, I was third to last because I was with the last two women. We were all trying to keep each other going to the finish line. I can think of a 10K that I ran in Santa Barbara, California, where I was absolutely the last person. They had already packed up all the finishers' medals and the ice cream was gone. And the people who didn't finish, so I was the last person who finished. The people who didn't finish, turned out a whole bunch of them had gotten lost on these kind of woodsy trails. So I felt good. I'd at least accomplished staying on the trail. But this is not something I'm good at. I cannot explain it, but I really like it. Now, the thing is that to keep on running, I need to sign up for races. I need to have some sort of a goal. I'm a goal-oriented person. And if I don't have a race, then it's just hard for me to just keep running all year. I'll say, I don't want to run in the rain. I don't want to run in the cold. I don't want to run when it's too windy. I don't want to run when it's too muddy. There's lots of reasons to not run. I'm sure you can think of some. There are far fewer reasons to keep running, but one of them is I paid $125 entrance fee for a race that's coming up in 9 months, 6 months, 3 months. It's approaching, and I really need to make sure that I'm ready for it, because the one thing that definitely could happen in a half marathon is I could hurt myself if I'm not fairly well trained. I may not finish very fast, but I can finish without hurting myself if I have done the proper training. Now, I have this great shirt that I'm actually wearing. If you're watching on YouTube, it just says in training, Carlsbad 18. And I got this shirt when I signed up for the Carlsbad Half Marathon in Carlsbad, California. And it's a great shirt. I love this shirt. But one of the things about it, and now, the shirt's 3 years old. So over the last few years of wearing it, often several times a week, okay, well, it does have to be washed. Well, I'm sure I've worn it at least once a week for the last few years. Is that when I'm running, and it takes an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours, or it just depends on how long I'm out there running. I started thinking about, other things. And I started thinking about all the different ways that the words in training could apply to various things in my life. And I cannot tell you the number of times that I have compared my running with my writing. Sometimes I look at it as, I'm going to get to the end and people will be cheering, usually in my head, but at races, people cheer. So that's something. And it'll be like when I finish the book, people will be so happy. They'll want to buy it and read it. And there's an awful lot of work that has to be done before then. I think about things like it takes a really long time to train for a half marathon. It takes a really long time for me to feel like I'm making progress and being a better person. There are so many things. The number of years that I've spent working on trying to be a more fit person, i.e. lose weight. That is a battle because I also really like food, and there aren't any medals. There aren't any finishers medals for, losing 10 or 20 pounds. I wonder if I could gamify it and get myself a medal at the end, if I would make faster progress. But anyway, I think of all the things that require a lot of preparation and a goal and time, and all of the times that you're thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't fun. I would really rather sleep right now. I would really rather run 2 miles today than 7 miles today. All the things that just feel in the moment like, this is not what I want to do. But when you can step back and look at the forest instead of the trees, and then you start looking at all the things that have been happening in this area of your life or all of your life that is related to how you keep training in doing the things that you really want to do and being the person that you really want to be. So here are some of the things that I feel that I am in training about. Definitely the running. There's, I think 12 weeks is the program length that is getting you from, I don't know, not being ready to run to running the half marathon. I actually need more time than that because I tend to not be running at all for a few months before. So I probably train for 5 months before a half marathon. So the analogy begins with the running, but all the other things, writing books takes months. I've only written 2 books where I've written the first draft in 1 month. And both books, I was like, wow, that just flew out of me. How did that happen? And, I could analyze it and try to figure it out. And I probably couldn't make it happen again, though. And similarly, there are the occasional running days where I'm like, wow, I made really good time. How did that happen? The stars aligned and I had the right amount of sleep and water and food. And I don't know. I don't know how to make it happen again, though. But writing a book takes a lot of preparation. It takes a lot of work in various ways. It's different for every person. Running also, the training can be different for every person. For me, you can see all the books behind me if you're watching on YouTube. I'm always reading a lot of books in and out of my genre in fiction. I'm usually reading a lot of books and articles and podcast episodes, listening to podcast episodes as ways to train me to be a better writer all the time. Physical health. In general, aside from running, I am trying to do things that make me a healthier person. So I'm trying to move more and more towards more whole, unprocessed foods, away from sugars more, away from, anything that is highly processed. I try not to eat anything anymore that's highly processed. Almost everything in the grocery store is processed in some way, but I'm moving down the scale towards healthier eating. And it takes time, it takes attention, it takes finding more information. Mental and spiritual health, always something that I'm working on, particularly since the burnout. I've been paying a lot more attention to my mental health than I ever have before. And I noticed when I'm slipping, when I haven't been, quote, in training, and I start moving into a burnout phase, which unfortunately, I wish I didn't have to admit, I have had a problem with that this last month or two. Lots of things in my life that don't even have to do with the pandemic have been coming together in such a way that I just haven't been dealing with it well. And it's really affected, it's, it's it's just really affected my mental health in a negative way. And now I'm working my way back into it again, asking myself, what are the things that I know to do to be healthier in this area? And then going back to doing them again. It's just like when I stopped running because I don't have a race and then I sign up for one. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't really have to start at the beginning exactly because there's muscle memory, but yeah, I have to go back to the basics again and work my way back through it. Spiritual health, same thing. Sometimes I'll be really good. I'll be reading my Bible 4 or 5, 6 days a week. I don't know why. I tend to not read it on Sunday because there's going to be a sermon that's going to, quote from the Bible anyway. But then there'll be times when, it's been a week or 2 weeks since I've even cracked it open. And I start noticing changes in how I react to things in my life, how I react to other people, whether or not I go back to being a little bit more judgmental. I really dislike that about myself. And so there are practices that I need to remember to stick with, to stay in training if I want to become a better person, to have like more of the spiritual values that I value, to have these things actively working in my life. And that kind of goes into also just becoming a better person. What is it that you do that helps you to feel like, oh, I'm becoming a better person because of this? Like I really have started, I've always enjoyed it, but now particularly during the pandemic, I've been really paying attention to making sure that I'm reading some articles at some regularity that are optimistic kinds of news articles. Like the woman was earlier this year, I think, that she was driving an Uber and she met this guy who was a passenger. They formed a friendship. He encouraged her with her, continuing college education. She had mentioned at some point this problem that she had. She had a few $100s bill that she had to pay before she could sign up for classes again. He helped her through that. And then the article ended with pictures of them at her college graduation. And when you look at the pictures, they look like two totally different kinds of people who, like, how in the world would they become friends? And those sorts of things just make me see the world differently. They make me see people differently. And they make me feel like I'm becoming a better person because now I'm looking for different things in the world. I'm having a better kind of expectation of people in the world. And it just makes me feel better. And I think it makes me act better. And that is one of the things that I try to do. One of the things that I try to be in training about. And then, from a more writing related and having to do with this podcast sort of thing, becoming a better book coach. This is super duper important to me. And I do a lot of reading and finding out more things about the writing industry, writing itself, different things about how our brains work, how we can treat our bodies so that our brains work even better, so that I can share this with other people and help them to not only finish their book, but be better writers, healthier writers, and feel like they are interesting people who have something to share, because you are an interesting person and you do have important things to share. But in order to do that, there's a lot of things that you need to take care of and keep building up in your life and not let yourself get complacent. So I encourage you to ask yourself this week and this month, since I only do an Encouraging Words episode once a month, what are you in training for? What are all the different areas of your life where you're like, this is an area I want to work on, improve, or make sure that I don't slide backwards in any way? Maybe a lot of the same areas as me. Maybe some other things. Maybe you're a parent, a spouse, different things in your job that you want to be better at, being more encouraging, a better leader, a better thought leader, maybe. So many things, so many things. So think about the things that you're trying to be better at and hopefully you'll start seeing some ways that you can keep on working at being in training in those areas. And let me know if there's something where you're like, oh, that was really interesting and it got me to think about this. And then I did these other things that I haven't done for a while. Like send me a message on Facebook or Twitter or email kitty@kittybucholtz.com and let me know what you started thinking about, what you started doing more of. In the meantime, have an excellent week. Happy writing. And I hope that you are having a lovely August. We'll talk to you more next time.